A lot of noise at City Hall today from those concerned about the noise from the proposed Ontario line. Some residents are raising concerns about a large section of that Ontario line that would run above ground and right through their neighborhoods. City Hall reporter Lauren Pelly joins us from near Dundas and Carlisle, one of the areas that would be impacted. And Lauren, most people want more transit, but this plan is causing quite a stir there.
Definitely, and you can hear a train going by right behind me right now on this rail corridor. There are regularly GO trains like this, as well as VIA trains running along here in a neighborhood where there are homes just across the street. So this area has been quite concerned about a possible expansion of this corridor to make room for the Ontario line. And people in Leslieville say, why not put it below ground instead? This Leslieville resident is used to trains trundling through his neighborhood.
You can't really speak to each other when the trains go by, and that's okay. We live in a city.
But the doctor and father is worried the province's Ontario line could tear apart this park and cause unhealthy levels of noise.
With the frequency of the trains and the volume that they bring, those decibels would really just decimate the heart of Leslieville.
Build it right! Build it now!
He's not the only resident raising concerns. Protesters filled Nathan Phillips Square this morning. While inside City Hall, close to 60 residents signed up to speak to Mayor John Tory's executive committee. Some worry there's no space for a new route alongside existing Metrolinx tracks unless the province expropriates people's homes.
The proposed overland route will wreak havoc on a densely populated, stable residential neighborhood to save some money.
Since the 15-kilometre Ontario line was first announced, questions have been swirling about its feasibility. The trains would start above ground near Ontario Place, head underground through the downtown core, then travel above ground again through big chunks of the East End. Getting to the last leg of the route above ground would mean trains have to go all the way across the Don Valley. Some residents say instead of dealing with those tricky logistics, the whole line should be tunneled underground. But Metrolinx argues having areas above ground could ease transfer points with GO trains and save some cash.
Those feel to me like excuses for what will be a devastating project for this neighborhood.
And just to give you a sense of why this issue hits so close to home for many residents, you can see just how close these homes are to this rail corridor. There are stones thrown away. There are children playing in these parks all the time. So this is something that, you know, is a constant piece of their life living in Leslieville. And what we saw today was Mayor John Tory at his executive committee meeting. He put forward a motion calling on the province to mitigate some of these concerns as they're building these plans going forward. That was approved, as well as the province's tentative agreement with the city. That means that's off to City Council next week for a final stamp of approval. Dwight?
Thank you for that, Lauren. This sound is the source of anger in Stouffville, and residents are fed up. Coming up, why the train is honking to begin with and why Stouffvillians want what they want, rather, done about it.
I get blasted every morning by the train horn.
It starts at 5:45 in the morning. It now goes till 12:15 at night.
They've even got a sign on the tracks at Eureka saying no train horns here. But they still do the train horns.
We are learning more about what happened leading up to the murder of a teen in Hamilton. Devin Brachy-Selvies was stabbed outside his school and in front of his mother. Tonight, we have new information about families frustrated with the school's response to bullying and how that frustration led to violence. Ellen Morrow has the details.
The scars of tragedy linger at Sir Winston Churchill High School. Not far away, the same scars haunt Sean Wagar, his son, a close friend of Devin Brachy-Selvies.
It's something I'm going to have to live with the rest of my life, unfortunately.
Wagar was there in the minutes before Devin was killed. Devin's mom there too, at the school again as they had been repeatedly over the bullying of their sons.
What are we supposed to do? We trust in the system, and the system failed. It failed.
As they were leaving the school, the deadly chain of events began. Wagar says Devin pointed out a group at the arena across the street, his alleged bullies. Wagar confronted them.
And I says, we'll go over there and we'll talk to the kids and, we'll sort something out,
As the tension escalated, the 18-year-old suspect showered Wagar with bear spray.
And all of a sudden, he just let that thing rip.
Wagar admits hitting the suspect after he was sprayed.
I went to a place to calm it down, and I kind of feel like I was the trigger.
It was just the beginning. Devin ran away from the arena, down a side street, pursued by a group of kids to the back of the school. There, Devin was stabbed in the back, allegedly by the other suspect, a 14-year-old. Devin's mother, who had driven from the front of the school, tried to save him.
Everyone failed my son, even I did. I tried to save him and I couldn't get to him in time.
How do you think it went from a confrontation to an actual stabbing?
I don't know. I've been fighting with this from the day it happened. Because it didn't make any sense.
School board officials have denied failing Devin, but they say they will investigate their safe schools practices. That's little comfort to Sean Wagar.
They should have done me, stabbed me. I would have took it and left a 14-year-old to live.
The suspects remain in custody awaiting trial. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Hamilton, Ontario.
And police in Hamilton have charged 3 people in connection with a protest outside a Maxime Bernier rally last month. One of them is a man whose family closed their restaurant in Toronto. Family members said they had received death threats over his participation in the demonstration. Allah Al-Sufi is charged with intimidation and causing a disturbance. His family's restaurant has since reopened but is temporarily under different management. 2 other men are facing obstruction and assault charges. Police say all of this happened outside a rally for the People's Party of Canada at Mohawk College.
Stripped fully naked, and he was leaning back and touching himself.
Stripping naked and masturbating on residential streets. Women in the West End warning others that this has happened multiple times in their neighborhood. Several people around Hyde Park have been posting online about this man who they've caught on video warning he is preying on women. Ali Shiasan joins us live from that community now. And Ali, you spoke with some of these women.
That's right, and what they describe is disturbing. It happens late at night on these quiet residential streets just north of Bloor near Hyde Park. Apparently, this guy waits for women to walk by, and then he chooses a lawn, lies down, and waits for them again. Have a listen.
I saw a car turn the corner there without a blinker, so it kind of caught my eye. He was coming down. It was like a red, I'm not going to say exact make, but it was like a Toyota Prius or a Ford Focus.
Like a hatchback looking kind of car.
Yeah, like a small car, and it had squeaky axles.
Last weekend's odd encounter turned disturbing in a matter of seconds. Lila Clarks was out walking with a girlfriend when...
Turns back, passes us, comes down a side street, parks his car, jumps out. He's about 6 to 6'4". He's stripped fully naked, and he was leaning back and touching himself. And
she says she had seen the same man before in August. This time she tried to snap a quick cell phone video without him noticing.
He covered his face with, I think it was like a shirt or his pants or something. So I couldn't exactly identify him or anything like that, but I know he was a white male.
She posted it on the local neighborhood Facebook group and found
that I wasn't alone, that some people posted that it's happened to them or happened to a friend. It's shocking that he hasn't been caught.
Really disturbing.
Yeah, it was really disturbing.
This woman wants to remain anonymous after her encounter with the same man a few months ago.
Just before midnight, between 11 and 12, I was out walking with a friend on Indian Road, and I had stopped to smell some flowers. It was springtime. And I heard a sound behind the bush, and I quickly realized there was movement. There was someone laying on the grass with their legs splayed open, and they were touching themselves inappropriately. I was shocked. My mind was racing. What should I do? Should I, report this? Was it safe?
She did call the local police detachment's non-emergency line.
I was put on hold for quite some time. They did take my name, but I didn't receive a follow-up call on that. So I'm not sure what was done or if they were able to speak to this individual.
The police say there are no recent reports on file. They also say they're aware of the reports on Facebook, but
posting it on social media is not helping police in this matter because we actually need that actual police report before we can start proactively following up.
So the police have some advice.
If you're a safe distance away, get a good description of this person as well as a photograph if you can. And then if they're in a vehicle, get that license plate. Police need to be aware that an incident like this is happening in a particular place so that we can follow up and investigate thoroughly.
What do you hope people take away from this coverage about it?
I hope that if they spot him, they report it right away. I want him taken off the streets so I don't have to deal with it and other people don't have to see it because it's very disturbing to see.
Lila told me that she didn't initially report her encounters to police because the man didn't touch her. She didn't feel like it was a big enough issue to give them a call to officially put it on file, but she says after today she will. The police also tell me that typically when they respond to these indecent exposure calls, the perpetrator has already left the scene by the time they get there. So all the more important, they say, that people call and report all of these incidents so they can recognize any patterns and investigate accordingly and more proactively. Dwight.
Yeah, I think more people may come forward after we sound the alarm. Thank you for that, Ali. Peel police are looking for suspects after a deadly shooting on Highway 410 last night. Somebody shot into a car, killing one man and critically injuring two others. It happened on the off-ramp to Derry Road in the northbound lanes. The victims were in a car that was sitting at a stoplight waiting to turn onto Derry when another car pulled up beside them and started shooting. There were 3 passengers in the car who suffered gunshot wounds, a woman and 2 men. One of the men was pronounced dead on scene. The other 2 victims were rushed to hospital with critical injuries. Police say it appears to be a targeted attack. They are looking for witnesses and particularly anyone who may have dash cam footage.
If there is anything that someone has seen or caught a piece of footage or is now reviewing the footage and sees a piece of something around the timelines of that incident, that they contact us so that we can get that information.
This is the second shooting on the 410 in the last 6 weeks. 18-year-old Dre Rooms Peters of Brampton was shot and killed when the car he was in was fired at on the highway near Sandalwood Parkway. Just a couple of hours after that incident, Peel police responded to another fatal shooting.
When officers arrived, they observed a male that was in the driver's side of the vehicle. He had suffered multiple gunshot wounds.
That man died at the scene. The shooting happened just before midnight outside a condo near Burnham Thorpe in Confederation Parkway. Witnesses told investigators a man approached the victim, fired several shots, then fled. Police are appealing for witnesses. Justin Trudeau held his first news conference today since Monday's election. The Liberals now have a minority government, and reporters asked Trudeau how he might govern differently. Julie Van Duzen is in our parliamentary bureau this evening. And Julie, Trudeau faces a fractured parliament. Did he say how he will now deal with that?
Yeah, well, he definitely has some challenges. Think about it. When he gets in there, he's going to be facing 32 Bloc Québécois MPs. They've tripled their numbers in the House. They have a very assertive leader, and they've already said, you know, bug off when it comes to Bill 21 in Quebec. That's the bill that forbids you from wearing religious symbols in certain jobs, i.e., you know, wearing a turban, for example. But he was asked about that today. Okay, now you've got all these Bloc MPs. What are you going to do? You know, what's your approach going to be? And he said, you know, we're going to watch it as it goes through the courts, but I'm not backing down. I'm leaving open the option of intervening at some point. And right there, you can see a possible collision course with the Quebec government and the Bloc Québécois just on that one issue. And then, of course, there's the whole thing of Western alienation, because Alberta and Saskatchewan shut out the Liberals, gave them no seats whatsoever. So right off the bat today, he wanted to assure Alberta that he was still committed to the expansion of the Trans Mountain pipeline, because many of the parties in Parliament are not interested in pipelines. But he said, no, I'm committed to that. That's going ahead. And so the bottom line is he's got to figure out, how to get Western representation in cabinet, because how do you do it, right? So he's been talking to people. Take a listen, Dwight.
I spoke with both premiers of Alberta and Saskatchewan yesterday, but I'm also speaking with people like Mayor Naheed Nenshi and others to talk about how we can make sure that the concerns, the very real concerns of Albertans, are being addressed and reflected by this government.
Yeah, with this independent Senate, he can't even go to the Senate, it seems now. How does Trudeau plan to get his agenda then through this minority government?
Yeah, well, he might have to change his approach a little bit because he's been used to having a majority. Now it's going to be a vote-by-vote situation. So he said, look, Canadians expect the parties to work together. He deplored the divisiveness of the campaign, took some responsibility for it. He said he's been reaching out, talking to all the other party leaders. But he did say, I am not interested in a formal or informal coalition with anybody. So take a listen.
Canadians gave me a lot to think about on Monday night as they returned us in government, but with a clear requirement to work with other parties on the priorities that Canadians spoke clearly to during the election campaign, particularly affordability and the fight against climate change.
So he said his other priorities, for example, would be to bring in a universal tax cut and expand medical assistance in dying, and that flows out of a recent court case. But Dwight, of course, everything depends on how much cooperation he's able to get from the other parties.
A lot for us to talk about over the next year or two. Thank you, Senior Reporter Julie Van Dusen in our Parliamentary Bureau in Ottawa. Thank you, Julie.
Okay, thanks, Dwight.
Check this out from our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley. This is a list of all the Canadian provinces whose premiers have publicly spoken to media about the federal election results. And here's the list of provinces whose premiers haven't. Just one. Ours, Ontario. Ontarians have yet to hear from Doug Ford. All right, we need to talk a little sports before you get into the forecast.
Sure.
Because you're blinging, and our viewers want to know, what's that on your finger?
What? This old thing?
That little giant ring you have on.
Hey, Dwight, I finally got engaged.
Yeah.
To an entire NBA basketball team.
To the Raptors, that's very cool. You got your ring last night.
Yes.
And you're wearing it with pride today as you give us the forecast, and we love it.
Absolutely. And I am going to take it off because basically it's so heavy, I'd be like this trying to do the forecast for you. I'll bring it down, Dwight. You try it on the end of the show. Yeah, it was such a great night, such a great night. Okay, how about today and these winds? Really gusty conditions we've been seeing, and those winds continuing to gust. They'll ease up a little bit overnight tonight, but through the day tomorrow, we're going to still find, at least early in the day, some breezy conditions. So when at times they drop below 30, then it comes off my wind gust map here, so that's why you're seeing that. But don't worry, they've been up there 40 to 50 kilometers an hour with some of these winds we've been seeing. The current temperatures there, still in the double digits, 12 degrees at the moment. Yes, some cloud cover out there. Precipitation, though, to the north of us. However, overnight tonight, the system is finally going to work its way through. As it does, and we go towards the morning hours, this is going to break up somewhat, but I would anticipate we'll see some scattered showers coming through tomorrow morning, and then into the afternoon, just isolated showers staying to the north of the GTA. And again, that's sort of when these winds will start to ease up on us a little bit too, so just kind of becoming a mix of sun and cloud. So how it looks overnight tonight, wow, that temperature, that's a seasonal, way above seasonal temperature for us. We should be closer to 2 to 3 degrees, so 9 for the overnight low. Tomorrow, 15, but albeit a little bit windy still. Hang on to your hat or your very, very significant rings as well.
I'm impressed. Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
Ottawa City Council has rejected a controversial councilor's request for a medical leave of absence. Rick Chiarelli has been accused by a number of women of inappropriate behavior in the workplace. Today's unanimous decision means he'll have to show up for the next council meeting if he wants to keep his job. Joanne Chianello has more.
Councillor McKenney. No. Councillor Moffat.
No. One by one, councillors said no. And what had been simmering for months was decided in minutes. Councillor Rick Chiarelli losing his bid for a leave of absence. An unheard of decision at City Hall.
As you saw today, there was precious little support for Councillor Chiarelli, and I think as more allegations come forward, it becomes more disgusting and very upsetting as to what was going on in his office for what appears to be many, many months, if not years.
City Council voted after CBC reported new allegations from a former Chiarelli staffer. Brittany Lees is the 13th woman to describe inappropriate behavior from the beleaguered councillor. Her story is similar to what other women have described, being asked to wear revealing clothing and being taken to bars to recruit so-called volunteers.
We left, we drove around Montreal, and then he pulled out a little red dress and said, "You need to go and get some volunteers at this club."
Lees quit after 18 months, but this summer she says she got a phone call from Chiarelli. He asked if she'd return to work, but Lees was stunned by what he said after she told him she'd lost weight.
He was like, "That's good. Can you still wear the clothes? And did you lose your boobs?"
Chiarelli has denied all allegations. He put out his own statement earlier this month saying he's never treated anyone in an inappropriate manner. He claims it's all part of an orchestrated political strategy against him. He also protested that the identities of some of his accusers were kept confidential. The statement infuriated some of the women who've come forward. Victoria Lauber says Chiarelli asked her to wear a see-through shirt without a bra.
You can't make that stuff up. You can't. And to say that it's anonymous, hi, my name's Victoria. I'm not anonymous. Sorry.
Now that council has denied his leave, Chiarelli will have to show up here for work by the end of November, or his seat will be declared vacant. But in his latest salvo, Chiarelli has said this week that he will go to court to try to stop the Integrity Commissioner's investigation into his behavior. Joanne Chianello, CBC News, Ottawa.
Coming up, a gruesome discovery in England.
Tragic discovery of 39 bodies inside a lorry container this morning.
This is an unimaginable tragedy and truly heartbreaking.
Dozens of bodies are found in the back of a truck northeast of London. How they got there and the latest on the investigation coming up after the break.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
A horrifying discovery about 40 kilometers east of the British capital. Police have found a transport truck with 39 dead people inside. And as Renee Filipponi tells us, it appears to be one of the worst human smuggling tragedies the UK has ever seen.
The truck where the bodies of 39 people were found has been moved from this industrial complex to Tilbury Docks, not far east. Police will then be able to continue the forensic work needed to try and identify the victims. 39 people were found early this morning, 38 adults, and it's believed one teenager. A 25-year-old man from Northern Ireland has been arrested on suspicion of murder and is being held in custody.
I will not be commenting on speculation of the identity of this man. At this stage, we have not identified where the victims are from or their identities, and we anticipate this could be a lengthy process.
Essex police say now the truck arrived on a ferry from Belgium, not Wales, as was earlier believed, and that it arrived in this complex just after 1 a.m. this morning. The truck is registered in Bulgaria, but authorities say it hasn't been in the country for years. The major questions right now are focused on the nationality of the victims, where the truck came from, and where it was going, and if this could have had anything to do with human trafficking.
The whole House will be shocked by the appalling news that 39 bodies have been discovered in a lorry container in Essex. This is an unimaginable tragedy and truly heartbreaking. I know that the thoughts and prayers of all members are with those who lost their lives and their loved ones.
Comparisons are being made to past cases where dozens of individuals were being smuggled into the UK or across the EU and ended up dead in container trucks. At this point, police are not giving any information about the victims, only asking if anyone with information would contact them. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Grays, Essex.
The U.S. is lifting sanctions on Turkey. President Donald Trump said the country is stopping combat against Kurdish fighters and making a ceasefire in Syria permanent, but he warned sanctions could be reintroduced.
Should Turkey fail to honor its obligations, including the protection of religious and ethnic minorities, which I truly believe they will do, we reserve the right to reimpose crippling sanctions.
The move comes after Turkey enlisted the help of Russian troops. They have been deployed in a Syrian town as a warning to Kurdish fighters that they must withdraw from the area or face further conflict.
This will take our reliance off of compressed natural gas. It'll take our reliance off fossil fuels.
The city is trying something new, turning compost into fuel for the trucks that collect your compost. How it all works coming up after the break. People living in Markham are blowing the whistle on what they call disruptive train horns going off at all hours of the day. Train whistles are used at crossings that don't have safety infrastructure like train arms in place. The city has now launched an anti-whistling program, but as Farah Morelli tells us, some residents say it isn't making a difference.
The sign says no train whistle at this crossing, but well, there it is.
Hearing the train at all hours of the day is quite bothersome.
9 months ago, Nick Pandit moved into the seniors building that faces the tracks.
Yet they blow the horn. And that wakes up everybody, it disturbs everybody. And it's not necessary because someone is not listening.
Those horns were the talk of coffee hour at Pandit's building today.
I get blasted every morning by the train horn, and I wouldn't mind if it was just a toot. But he just leans on the horn for no apparent reason.
I can see the train going when I'm still in bed, and it makes a lot of noise. I wake up every morning at 5:45, and it's very noisy.
You know, I knew the tracks were there, I knew the trains were there, but I wouldn't have moved into this building if I'd known it was going to be this much racket.
Complaints about horns aren't new in Markham. Shanta Sundararajan made the case to silence them 4 years ago at City Council.
We were promised that this crossing, amongst others, would be silenced about a year ago in November last year by the mayor and his team at the City of Markham. And we're still waiting today.
With the removal of the train whistling at the designated crossings,
the City of Markham has launched an anti-whistling program, seen promoted here. Transport Canada mandates the use of horns at crossings that don't have safety infrastructure. So the city is ramping up the installation of train arms and signage at 13 crossings. But it's been slow.
And we're working with Metrolinx to implement the infrastructure that's required, and then we'll ask for it, and then it will go to Transport Canada, and they make the final decision.
The city says it even asked Metrolinx to postpone bringing in additional train service to the area until whistle cessation is complete, but says that request was denied. Metrolinx says 7 of the 13 crossings have been upgraded. In a statement, it said in part, Metrolinx is delivering on its promise to expand transit in Ontario by offering more service, more trains and more choice for GO customers in Toronto, Unionville and Markham on the Stouffville corridor. In the meantime, residents like Shanta are bracing for more horns. Metrolinx is bringing in hourly train service on the weekends in less than 2 weeks. Farah Morelli, CBC News, Toronto.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to wake up to that at 6 a.m. every morning. Remember, if you have a story you would like us to look into, we would love to hear from you. Just send us an email, torontotips@cbc.ca. Ontario is creating an official day of action on litter. The day will focus on trash cleanup. The first one will be held May 12, 2020. The province says Ontarians are passionate about keeping nature and communities litter-free. If you are sitting down to dinner right now, remember to put your food scraps in the green bin, not in the garbage bin. I tell my kids that all the time. Now, the city is using that organic waste to produce gas. It will be used to fuel city vehicles. Natalie Nanowski dug into a couple of waste reduction stories for us today. Here's the first one for you to digest.
You couldn't tell from looking at it, but this is where Toronto's organic waste ends up.
It doesn't smell here.
No, it shouldn't.
Yeah.
It shouldn't. If you're managing your waste properly, it should never smell.
At the back of the facility is where food scraps are lifted into giant containers and processed to make biogas, aka a renewable natural gas, that will be used by Toronto's 170 waste collection trucks. Currently, they run on compressed natural gas, a fossil fuel.
Renewable natural gas is a green form of energy. The fact that it's renewable is the fact that we're not extracting resources from the planet. It's coming in the form of food waste.
The waste goes through these anaerobic digesters, where the gas is separated and then pumped into a line. Toronto partnered with Enbridge to build the facility. It's one of the first in North America to convert food scraps to fuel.
This will take our reliance off of compressed natural gas. It'll take our reliance off fossil fuels.
The renewable natural gas will then end up here at one of the city's 3 refueling stations. City trucks drive up, plug in, and then get gassed up.
If Toronto chooses to displace 100% of compressed natural gas with renewable natural gas, those trucks will be net neutral, meaning they will be just as clean as any other electric vehicle or hydrogen vehicle being anticipated in the future.
The site will be fully operational in 2020. The trucks, though, will be running on a mix of natural gas and biogas, since it's still too costly to switch over completely.
We absolutely hope to make this less expensive as we get a little bit better at making renewable natural gas.
To optimize the process, the city needs to make sure all organic waste ends up in the green bin, not the landfill, where it takes 10 to 15 years to break down.
By sending it to this organic facility, we're able to process this immediately, so that energy is extracted much quicker.
The city estimates that the program will keep 9,000 tons of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
Ever have trouble figuring out where to put your garbage? I'm Natalie Nanowski. A team from the University of Toronto takes the guesswork out of it with a machine that they created. I'll have that story coming up.
Figuring out which piece of trash goes into what bin can be tougher than it sounds, and it's probably why more than 25% of Toronto's recycling is contaminated. A group of U of T students has created a bin that fixes that problem. It takes the guesswork out of sorting trash. Here's Natalie Nanowski again.
So the user just, let's say, the user just places the waste into the brains of RoboBin.
And with the simple push of a button, the machine does the rest. A little camera scans the item and determines whether it's waste, recycling, or...
If you see, RoboBin identifies apple as organic.
The 5 graduate students say the idea came to them when they couldn't figure out where to toss their trash.
Even if we try to make an educated guess, we go wrong.
And most people do. That's because the rules for things like plastic vary between cities and even between office buildings. The RoboBin, a small computer that attaches to a waste bin, can be programmed to tackle all of that.
So what it's doing is basically analyzing each and every pixel separately, and then finds out like what's the best description for the content over there.
The team entered this year's global KPMG Ideation Challenge and won against 600 submissions.
So this team in particular brought to life the business case for their idea
by reference to talking about the number of bins at a theme park and the amount of waste that is then generated in a theme park, and we're able to really talk about the dollars that could be saved around, you know, recycling or taxes or the waste management.
Right.
Getting it working wasn't easy. They had to upload more than 35,000 images to teach their computer to differentiate between recycling, compost, and waste. It gets even more tedious. To get the machine to recognize something like an apple, they had to show it all different types: red, green, yellow, half-eaten apples, and even apple cores.
We want to implement it on a very local scale and do a test run in our neighborhood.
The goal is to have machines like this in place in buildings in the next few years.
They're in discussions with some organisations about taking it further, and I think people get it.
The team estimates the RoboBin could save cities millions and solve at least part of the world's waste problem. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
The wind out there causing all kind of bad hair days for people today, Colette. I didn't have any problems, though, when I walked to the gym earlier. I was good.
No. Yeah, you do all right, don't you? Yeah, I had a toque on, so I did okay, too. Yeah, it was a little cool out there because of that breeze, right? And we are going to find that these winds are still gusty into the evening hours, and then they're going to ease later in the day tomorrow. So it's going to take a bit of time. The morning still very breezy, and then things improve. We will have some isolated showers, and I'll kind of show you when and where you can anticipate those. And one more day where we're going to see the temperatures above seasonal, and then they're actually going to be falling down. And speaking of falling down, I want to show you the almanac just because I want to point out for this date in history, the SOG. And if you're like, what's that? Snow on ground. Well, the snow on ground for this date in history, the record, 1969, there were 8 centimeters. So, you know, we're dealing with some breezy conditions, and that's about it. And our temperature's 12 degrees at the moment, and that's actually where we should be at this time of year for an afternoon high. So we've been gaining a few extra degrees the last few days. And as we look at these wind gusts and the forecast here, when you get into these deeper purples, that's the more significant or those stronger winds. And we're really going to be seeing those so this evening around the Golden Horseshoe, and then those pushing around by tomorrow morning, coming back through the GTA, and then easing tomorrow afternoon. To go along with that, through the overnight, most of the showers are to the north, but by morning, we'll probably see a few scattered showers kind of coming through the GTA and then breaking up, and just isolated ones to the north of us, again, as the day wears on and those winds ease up and this temperature or the system moves away from us, and then the temperatures start to come down. Overnight tonight, though, they're on the mild side, that's for sure. Nearly 10 degrees, just under. Markham, you could see one of these stray showers a little earlier, or any points further towards the north, certainly towards Barrie, a greater chance there. Tomorrow afternoon, reading still looking good, albeit a little breezy and then getting better. And then as we look at the 5-day forecast, that's where we're talking about the temperatures for a few days anyway, coming back closer to seasonal values. We will get into the weekend with some cooler readings and then warm up for the second half, Dwight, but also that's where we pick up a pretty good chance for seeing some rain coming back through.
Back to the SOG for a sec, Colette. I feel like we've been doing this a long time. I don't think I've heard that one before.
Heard the SOG?
Is it new?
I don't even know if I've said it before.
All right, we're going to pull it out for this winter. Snow on ground.
Snow on ground. You got it.
Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
We told you a few minutes ago about a trash sorting invention. Now something to make a trip to the grocery store easier. Sobeys is testing out a new smart cart technology. It scans and weighs each item you place in the grocery cart, allowing customers to pay on the spot and avoid the lineups. We got a special look at the technology today.
There's a barcode scanner here on the front.
You know, it's good. Anything that speeds up the overall process is something that you want to do.
We're just bringing our new Sobeys Smart Cart. So it's a new innovative way of doing your shopping. Think about the shopping cart. It hasn't changed for dozens, if not hundreds of years.
There's smart sensors and a lot of technology directly in the cart that you can see here. So one of the most notable things is 2 cameras here in the front, 1 here in the back. And this basically detects every single item that I'm putting inside of the cart, and it takes a lot of images of the product as I put it in the cart to train the shopping cart and make it smarter over time.
It will save some time and efforts as well, and might also help the store to save in the manpower as well.
So we're actually able to free up some employees from the front end to be on the floor, answering customers, talking about the food, helping them choose a recipe or a product. So it's more about being able to bring more people on the floor.
No, I will definitely will give it a try. I'll see. I have to try it a few times. It's like anything else. And then if I like it, I will definitely use it. Yes, yes.
We know that people don't like to wait in lines. And there's this inconvenient thing with a regular shopping cart about having to take an article, put it in your basket, take it out at the front end, to put it back in a bag. And we think we solved that with a Caper Cart.
What we've been addressing is kind of changing the stagnant form factor. We want to provide the experience that you can now see online. You could sit at home on your couch and order groceries and they'll come right to your door. So we want to bring a lot of the benefits that you see in other ways back to the store.
So for today we're going. Rodney, you found something funny? I'm the only one not laughing. So now you snitching. Step outside my class. Let me speak to you real quick. Ooh.
It's the hot new social media platform, and even federal party leaders are taking notice. More on TikTok and how it's branching out into the world of e-learning next.
Choose city streets. Choose to conquer the unexpected. Choose adventure at every turn. Choose any path with the Nissan Qashqai, where fun meets function. Get lease or finance rates from 0% on select models, or get 14,000 standard rate finance cash on Titan Platinum models.
Avo in a smoothie? Really?
Avo on the go is your go-to, amiga. For the gym or for breakfast. Anytime is Avo time.
Avocados from Mexico.
Oh, here they are. The Lotto 649 numbers from the last draw are 6, 13, 20, 27, 34. And the final number is...
Get that 649 feeling. The next Lotto 649 jackpot is an estimated $5 million, plus the guaranteed $1 million prize.
Wherever you are, whatever you're craving, and whenever you're craving it, DoorDash has the restaurants you want, delivered to your door, wherever your door happens to be. Download DoorDash and bring the restaurants to you. First order $0 delivery fee.
Why just go from A to B when you can go from A to brilliant? Get into the all-new fun-to-drive 2020 Corolla with a $500 winter tire or vehicle cash credit when you buy or lease a qualifying new Toyota. Hurry, offer ends soon.
An experience as stirring and inspiring as it is joyous, foot-stomping, and heartwarming. A musical that takes you to a place you never want to leave. Come From Away, the remarkable true story. Get your tickets at Mervish.com.
All together, we're gonna have some fun.
Unless you're the parent of a teen, you probably haven't heard about TikTok. It is a rapidly growing social media app that encourages people to make and share short videos. Our tech columnist, Ramona Pringle, is here to tell us more about it and explain why it is so popular right now, especially among young people.
I think part of the reason it's so popular is because it has that feeling of authenticity that we're always promised with new social media platforms, but that we don't really see on other platforms. If you think back to the origins of Instagram, for example, we were told that it was all about authenticity, especially compared to traditional media. Yeah, these days I feel like the brand is synonymous with overproduced, super polished, very contrived content, even if they're trying to project the look of it being spontaneous.
I'm just watching ads all day.
Absolutely. So I think that's part of the appeal is, things are embarrassing sometimes. There's, people talk about these cringe videos where it just feels cringe-worthy because it may be very, very sincere, but it's embarrassing. And so for young people who may not feel comfortable posting on Instagram, they're posting this content that feels a little bit more sincere, maybe a little bit embarrassing. As much as they promote consuming this content, it's about creating it. I've heard it called the sort of 21st century drama club, which I love.
All right, class, so for today we're going Rodney, you found something funny? I'm the only one not laughing. So now you snitching. Step outside my class. Let me speak to you real quick. Ooh. It's not even that serious, so calm down.
But there's all sorts of resources in terms of creating content. They provide you with filters, there's sounds and songs that you can use, and then there's all the challenges. They're pushing you to get engaged. That is the way that you engage with the community, is by creating content, remixing content, sharing content.
And now it's reached its height of popularity. It seems like TikTok now wants to branch out.
Well, so there's an interesting initiative that they've launched in India as of the last week, and they've got 200 million users there, so it's a huge audience. They're actually working with people in the e-learning space to create educational content with this question: could you learn English by watching TikTok videos?
चुटकी को हम इंग्लिश में कहते हैं snap.
So for instance, one of the creators that they've got has 5 million fans, and she creates these short videos where she'll try and teach the English definitions of terms like sitting on the fence, that, you know, if you were just to ask Google Translate, you wouldn't actually understand the translation for them, but it's short and pithy, and it works perfectly for the forum.
When we hear about something getting so popular, especially with our young kids on it, we have to worry about maybe some concerns there. Are there any concerns with this app?
Well, with the strategy of launching this e-learning campaign in India, I think absolutely part of it is cleaning up their brand image there. So they have, they've been up against some pushback with authorities there. Some judges had ruled that they were hosting and promoting pornographic content and illicit content. It was banned, but the ban was then lifted. The parent company of TikTok is based in China, and there's been a lot of concerns there as well about censorship, especially around the Hong Kong protests. And that's also attached to, you know, the fact that they have there's no bones about the fact that they are an AI company. And so here we have, you know, mounting concerns about how algorithms are restricting or deciding what content we have access to, what information that we have access to. You know, theoretically, we should have access to more information than ever online, but because there's algorithms that are, you know, strangling what we see, that's not always the case. But with TikTok, their backbone is AI. And so with all of its popularity, it continues to set a precedent that, you know, certainly will be mimicked. So that's part of the concern as well.
Appreciate you getting me up to speed on this, because I've been hearing my kids talk about TikTok for a while now. Thanks, Ramona.
It's my pleasure.
Nothing brings people together like sports. It unites us all. Let's give out the rings.
Your champs finally get their rings. The Raptors started their season last night, and before tip-off, they got the bling to match the Larry O.B. trophy. We'll bring you the sparkly details after the break.
gonna sleep with it at night for like 3 months.
We think it's one of the best rings, if not the best ring ever made.
Yeah, my hand hurt. It's a little heavy, so I had to start lifting some more weight so I could carry it around. But man, what an amazing ring. What a way to cap off last year, and what a way to start this year.
I never thought I'll be here among all you guys accepting this beautiful championship ring.
Oh, you deserve it, Nav. The defending NBA champs return to the court with some serious bling, celebrating their rise to the top. As you saw, superfan Nav Badia also got a piece of new jewelry, and fans got replicas as well. Another piece of bling. Hilario B was on the court last night, along with a new addition to the stadium.
We want to thank all you fans of this great city of Toronto and the country of Canada. We wouldn't have been able to do this without you guys. So listen, we got this special thing up there right there we about to unveil. Y'all ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We'll keep on fighting. Oh, we're back. Okay, what a special moment after a special year. After the banner dropped and the players had their moment, it turned into business on the court, and the champs kept their winning streak alive. The Raps beat out the Pelicans in overtime, 130-122, with both Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam putting up 34 points. I think that's the most for VanVleet. The home opener was the most watched regular season NBA game ever in Canada, with 2.6 million of us tuning in. And I'd like to thank the City of Toronto and this is my friend Colette's ring that she got last night at the game, and she's been kind enough to let me wear it while she does the forecast. Go ahead, I'm just admiring this.
Oh yeah, okay,
Wow.
you do that. See that big diamond? That's
It's
the Larry
so-
O'Brien.
it's
That
so
represents
heavy.
The Larry O'Brien right
This is
there.
the replica?
I know,
Wow.
crazy. Oh, okay, the weather's not crazy. Let's talk about that. Overnight tonight, breezy conditions, that's for sure. Towards morning, we'll get into some showers passing through, pretty light and scattered in nature. 9 degrees the overnight low, and then tomorrow we'll see those winds beginning to ease and a high of 15. And then after that, Dwight, temperatures are going to come down a little bit for the afternoon highs for a few days.
I'm not coming down.
I'm not getting that
Oh,
back.
that's
am
our
I?
show for tonight. Mike Wise has your
Knew it.
next local news at 11. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Can I just borrow it for a couple of days, maybe?
Take it home.
Oh, yeah.